Okay. Hi, everybody. Sorry. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Buddy. This is my pen name, and my real name is Ling YiFan. I'm from Beijing, China. I'm very honored to be invited to give a talk at Dicon 2015 to share my personal views and stories. As a manga artist, I've been drawing manga for over 12 years, 10 of them as a professional artist. Today, I'm here to talk about how did I become a manga artist and how was it being one in China. I'm going to present you 4 pieces of my works from different times. Each one of them contains a story about my life and Chinese manga industry. The first one is called Delicious Seasons. That was my first manga. When I was a child, I read this. They were picture storybooks drawn by Chinese artists. As you can see, they were quite beautiful and artistic. I liked them very much. But when I was 11, I met manga. The first manga book I saw was Ranma 1/2, written and drawn by Rumiko Takahashi from Japan. It was something I had never seen. Because Japanese people read and write from right to the left, it was opposite with how Chinese people do. And also, the panels are not always squares like picture storybooks. So, I really struggled for a while when I tried to read it. Finally, after I connected the dialogues in bubbles on one page logically, all of a sudden, they started to make sense to me. When I figured out how to read it, manga told me stories in a way that no other books ever did. It was sort of like movies. The actions, the emotions, the storyline, everything was smooth and vivid, so natural. And it was all done by just one person. I was totally amazed. For me, it was, and still is, the greatest thing in the world. At that moment, I decided to do this manga thing after grow up, even though I didn't even know how to call it. The decision I made at 11 years old made me push myself to learn more about manga, practicing drawing techniques and learning Japanese artists' method to arrange the panels. There was no such thing as manga education back then in China, so I had to teach myself. After 9 years, when I was graduating from college in 2003, my first manga story, Delicious Seasons, started being serialized in Chinese manga magazine. It was soon welcomed by the audience. The story was about a college girl, dreams to be a great chef, working part-time, cooking for a family, and also the romance between her and the boy she was giving service to. Back then, there weren't many original manga stories in Chinese manga magazines. If an artist can draw a little better than others, no doubt he or she would be noticed. I was lucky enough to be one of them. While I was doing Delicious Seasons, I worked full-time in a mobile game company. Well, I used all my free time to do the manga, almost 4 hours per day, plus the weekends. I was busy like hell, but I was happy because my dream came true. However, it only lasted a year until I realized myself in a creation bottleneck. I didn't know what to write. The fun part at the beginning wasn't fun anymore. it became painful. Well, although the audience still showed their interest to the manga, well, I knew it wouldn't last long. If I forced myself to tell people stories that I don't even like, they wouldn't like it either. I was 22 years old, and I thought about that. I decided not to do what I couldn't enjoy. So, I put delicious seasoned cereal on hold. A year of working on manga saved up some money, but it emptied me. There was a hole in my brain. I need something to fill it up so urgently, even though I didn't know with what. Therefore, I went to Birmingham, UK, where I created the second story that I'm presenting today, Cactus. The tutors in my university in UK didn't like Japanese manga. Frankly, they didn't encourage students to copy or follow any styles that already existed. People came here to explore their own styles. I thought that was just what I needed. At first, to get rid of manga influence, I did some experiments on drawing methods and styles, as you can see here. When I was doing all that, I thought about creating new stories from other angles to go with my new drawing style. In the meanwhile, there were changes happening in my life. It was my first time away from my family. I had to take care of myself, and also being alone gave me space, too much space to face my soul. As a foreigner, I felt difficult to fit in. The experience of being welcomed by Chinese audience made it harder to adjust my feelings when I was unknown by anyone in UK. More than that, comparing to other students, I felt immature and awkward. I wanted to be recognized and make friends, but I didn't know how. I didn't even know how to fully understand my tutor's British accent. Well, I felt small. I had to accept it. To encourage myself, I wrote the story of Cactus. A cactus grew up in a forest. He realized how different he was from others around him. He hated the difference. He dreamed to be like anyone else, to have branches, leaves, and fit in. But one day, when he woke up from a long sleep, he found the forest turned into desert. All the trees dried out. The only one who survived was him. One night, he bloomed, a big flower. It was the only flower in the desert. This book made me win the Best Recommended Award of Macmillan Children's Book Award 2006, and it brought me to London to receive the award. Like the cactus, I bloomed. But that was not all. After I got my master's degree, I went back to Beijing for a while, still feeling unfulfilled. The year in UK, all my experience was from my life as a student in campus. I never tried to be a professional creator to support myself and experience the real life I wanted to. So I went to UK again. This time, I planned to stay in London for 3 months, but I only brought half of the budget I would need, which means if I couldn't find a job as an artist in 15 days, then all I have is the money to buy a flight ticket. I will have to go home immediately. Or I can stay there for at most 50 days with no airfare left. Does that sound a terrible plan? Well, yes, it was terrible, but it had to work because I didn't have a plan B. After I landed in Heathrow Airport, walked into London subway, dragging my 30-kilogram luggage, I was not sure about which stop to get off because I didn't know anybody there and didn't make hotel reservation as well. In the train, I chose a station on the map, for it looked like a city center. I got off subway there and found a roadside hostel to check in. That was the beginning of my London life. On the second day, I started looking for jobs, but it wasn't easy. For an unknown freelance manga artist, life is not easy. I found nothing in 10 days. Anxiety made it hard to sleep. I started to wonder if I was crazy to make that plan. But then I remembered my cactus. I told myself to hang in there. On the 11th day, Manga Expo opened in London. I went there to look for chance. After listening to an English publisher's lecture, I rushed up there holding my portfolio, asked him that if he can take 1 minute to look at my artworks. I was so nervous. The crowd was still there looking at me, just like this. More than I expected, he looked at my portfolio and he said they were great. He would love to work with me. And he really did, published some of my works in UK after that. When I was still excited about that, there was a pretty girl walked from the crowd. She handed me a demo CD with her own songs in it. Her name was Anna, an American musician. Anna asked me if I could do the cover art and all the illustration pages for her demo CD. And I said, hell yes. That job made me £1,000, which was enough to support me for the rest of the days in London, including buying a plane ticket home. Being encouraged by Cactus, I survived in UK. At the end of those days, I realized it was a good thing to empty yourself, because that means you're ready to accept new things. Fear was a good thing too, because it can inspire your potentials. After a year in Birmingham and 3 months in London, I had a lot of stories to tell, a lot of new characters to write about. I don't only pursue drawing method and the styles anymore. My first priority became telling a good story. Speaking of that, for me, manga was the most comfortable way to tell stories. So I came back to Beijing just for being there for my family and focusing on my new manga stories. That was the point I created the third story, Spirit Voice, which is also my most controversial manga of all. 2007. At that time in China, more and more manga magazines was appearing, and they were selling like crazy. With the increase of magazines, writers and artists were increasing as well. The audience of Chinese original manga was getting wider too. Sending your manga to the magazine, hoping to get published, it was the only way to be a manga artist. If you worked with the most popular magazine, there was a chance that your manga books may be sold by millions and make you rich. It was time of magazines. Well, competition was getting serious. It wasn't so easy to get noticed now. Some people can draw better than me, and some others are more well-known. There was a little panic at first, but then I thought it's better this way, because attentions would be distracting. If I care too much about other people's opinions about my work, I can't focus on telling stories or thinking about what need to be improved. Those are more important comparing to money and fame. At the meantime, going through some frustrating relationships, I learned to adjust my emotions. By that chance, I started to do research about human psychology, and I wrote a manga story about it, which is called Spirit Voice, about a girl who is a psychologist, wants to know what other people think and feel in order to help them in the way they need. She met a teenager patient who claims that he can hear people's thoughts, and many puzzles came to her after that. That story was a little deep and very different from other mangas at that time. In the few years Spirit Voice was on magazine, it brought me a crowd of very loyalty audience. Creating the story was challenging to me. I had to read books about screenwriting, see movies, watch TV series, and interview a real psychologist. I had to learn more. As I was studying, I realized something. No matter how good you are, there are always some people can beat you in some way. Yet no one can ever be the best in every way. But you can try to be better than yourself, and you can always choose to be different. So, I tried a lot of new things in Spirit Voice. The storyline was jumping around, very complicated characters. And also, I tried to do colors instead of black and white. Those were experiments of all the stuff I learned from books and movies. Unfortunately, in September 2013, the magazine was shut down. So the manga had to stop with it. It was quite a shock, but also kind of a relief, because even I tried very hard, creating Spirit Voice got more and more difficult for me. I felt empty again. It was time to refill myself. So I didn't just move the manga to another magazine or start a new manga serial. I started to write different kinds of short stories, do graphic novels, and two of them won the Bronze Award of International Manga Award, hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan in 2012 and 2015. And while I was doing that, I waited. Shutting down of magazines, book sales was going down as well. Everything was telling me time is changing. In China, social network went into our life in 2009. In 2013, mobile network was getting prevailing. Mobile network users were getting used to read pictures instead of words. From about last year, webcomics became an important marketing method. Manga authors are getting paid for doing advertisement manga or by signing with manga website or application companies. The need of reading manga on smartphones is huge. Popular online mangas can get millions of hits in a week. According to that, some of the manga artists are changing their method of doing manga. They arrange panels in line vertically in order to make people see better on small mobile screen. Just like this. This is the traditional way. And this is the new way. Okay, so I realized that I had to change. So I started my first story gardening. At the beginning of last year, among all the invitations from websites and magazines, I chose Wei-manhua and started the new serial manga gardening. The story is about a guy who is 24 and he has a little girl ghost with him since he was 14. He got bullied at school back then and she protected him. They were the best of friends. But ghosts don't grow. After 10 years, she still wouldn't let him to have a relationship with any real woman. She says she's protecting him. So things are getting harder to bear for him. One day, a beautiful lady came into his life, but she's full of secrets and seems looking for something else. One of the reasons I chose Wei-manhua is because I wanted to know if my manga can be well accepted by internet users. Wei-manhua based on Weibo, which is the biggest social network platform in China. And the other reason was that it has a group of very talented young editors. The discussion of storyline, the experiments that I did with Spirit Voice had been done. This time, I want to try to include Tim into the discussions of storyline. My editor, Gloomy, and the other editors gave me all kinds of inspirations. We work very well together. But there were arguments at first. We had different opinions about readers' comments. People are commenting that they hate the main character because he was so mean to the girl. The editors were worried about it. They wanted me to make him nicer. But the story needed him to be that way. And I thought it was a good sign. Because good manga can make people love or hate the characters like they're real people. And real people have flaws. So I stick to my own opinion. And the editors compromised, let me do it my way. I'm grateful about that. After I started creating gardening, with the editor's help, my manga writing became more purposeful, more logical, and more in control. In just 1 year, gardening has got more than 100 million of hits only on Wei-manhua website and application, and thousands of positive comments. Also, it's serialized on another magazine, Manhua Hui, at the top of the popularity list from the first issue to the latest one. Interests of adapting this manga started to roll in from film and television companies as well. Few months ago, being introduced by Wei-manhua, gardening was translated and put on Korean manga websites for Korean audience to read, and they liked it very much. Korean comics and mangas are very well known in China, although I only read a few of them. There was one really impressed me last year. It was called I Love You, I think. The drawing was no good, but the story made me weep for many times. Actually, it was one of the reasons that I believe telling a good story is the most important thing in manga. I would love to see more great stories from Korean artists and learn from them. Going through these 10 years with Chinese manga industry and exploring in my life, I finally grew into a qualified creator. It was a precious experience. But today, the world changes faster than ever. New talents and techniques are showing up on Earth every second. In my opinion, emptying myself from time to time, Throw away self-admirations and vanity. Be humble yet steady about creating. It's the only way to always fill myself with new things and create better stories and artworks. I will keep doing that in the future. There are few images in the slides came from internet. If there's copyright problem, please contact me with this email. And all the slides are made by Raymond Jin, presentation specialist and designer. He's also my husband and sitting over there. Thank you for your brilliant work. Please contact him if you have questions about presentation and slides. Thank you very much.